You're sitting at your desk, maybe in your third Zoom meeting of the day, when it hits you. What if I just quit? Walk away from the spreadsheets, the endless notifications, the fluorescent lights, and trade them for sunsets in Bali, cafes in Lisbon, and morning hikes in Peru. But hold on. Is it really that simple? Can you just leave it all behind and live the dream? We scoured Reddit threads, Quora debates, YouTube comments, and real-world polls to find out what the internet really thinks about quitting your job to travel the world. And spoiler alert, the answer isn't black and white. Some people call it the best thing they ever did. Others, the biggest mistake of their lives. So, should you take the leap? Let's find out. The dream sells itself. No alarm clocks, no office drama, no chasing promotions. Just you, your backpack, and the freedom to go anywhere. Travel influencers flood social media with clips of crystal clear waters, mountaintop drone shots, and hammocks in the jungle. It looks effortless. But we all know, what we see online isn't the full picture. Behind every sunrise selfie, there might be a night of sleeping in a noisy hostel. For every "I work remotely from a beach" post, there's someone dealing with poor Wi-Fi, visa headaches, or loneliness thousands of miles from home. This lifestyle raises deeper questions. Can you afford it? Can you build a future while constantly moving? What about healthcare, friendships, or burnout? So we dug deep into the internet's most honest spaces, Reddit, X, Quora, to understand what real people experienced after walking away from the 9-to-5 grind. Let's start with Reddit. The subreddit r/solo travel is filled with people who've either made the leap or are seriously considering it. One Reddit user shared their experience after quitting their job to travel Latin America, and it's full of useful advice. I quit my job earlier this year to travel for 3 months around Latin America. My original plan was 4 months, but I cut it short for various reasons. It was definitely worth it, but I did have a job pretty much lined up in another country before I started, and that was the only reason I felt comfortable leaving. That said, if you have a good resume and you're confident you'll find a job once you're back, do it. A couple of thoughts on your plan. First, 1 year is a long time to travel. Everyone's different, but I personally started feeling travel fatigue after just 2 months. Second, living out of hostels or hotels for a whole year can get exhausting. If you're staying in one region, consider mixing in Airbnb stays, especially longer-term ones. Many give heavy discounts for month-long bookings. Also, slow travel saves money. Spend a few weeks to a month in each location instead of hopping around every few days. Think carefully about where you really want to go, and how fast you want to move. Another user wrote this. I quit my job and went to Europe for 2 months, but it was part of a combination of things. When we came back, we were also moving cities. Everything went into a storage unit. It took longer than I'd hoped to find a new job, especially since COVID hit and the position I had lined up completely ghosted me. At first, I felt like I had ruined my life. The first couple of months back were really hard. But now, a few years later, I have no regrets. In fact, I'm grateful to myself for taking that chance. I love the life I ended up with, even if it looks very different from what I imagined. Another user offered a more reflective take. It really depends on what your goals and priorities are. Are you someone who enjoys long-term travel? I have friends who are completely worn out after just 2 weeks on the road. Do you prioritize things like owning a home, saving for your children, or climbing the career ladder? For my partner and me, all of our friends have managed to buy homes while we're only now starting to save again from scratch. And yes, taking a year off definitely set me back in my career and delayed my professional progress. But if you love to travel, and you're comfortable with those opportunity costs, then you should 100% do it. Everyone has different priorities in life. I thought about all of these before I left, accepted them, and I absolutely loved my trip. One user brought up a more sobering point: age and career risk. One important thing to seriously consider is your age. The younger you are, the less risky it is to quit your job and travel, you'll have more time to recover from this kind of career detour. I can only speak from the US perspective, but the system here is designed to keep people working. It often penalizes you financially and professionally for taking extended breaks or changing your career path. And that penalty isn't linear, it grows exponentially the older you are. So if you're under 30, the impact is much smaller compared to someone deeper into their career. Another point, work is work, it's not always about fun. There's this popular idea that you should turn your passion into your career, but that often turns your passion into work. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but people rarely mention how the demands of making money can slowly overpower the joy that passion once gave you. One of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of stepping away from your job is to have a hook, someone in your field who can help you reintegrate or fast-track your return once your travels are over. And finally, even if 90% of people say quitting their job to travel was worth it, that doesn't guarantee it will be for you. We don't really know each other on the internet. We don't know each other's financial situations, emotional baggage, lifestyle needs, maturity levels, career fields, or networks. All of that makes a difference. 100% worth doing if life allows for it. And don't forget, it's nice to hear other people's opinions and experiences, but ultimately, you should do what feels right for you. Regarding the budget, if you're talking USD, it's definitely doable, but you may end up spending more than you expect. The last time I was in Southeast Asia was November 2022, and some places aren't super cheap anymore, especially Thailand. To be fair, I was in pretty touristy areas like Koh Phi Phi and Phuket, but paying 150 THB, almost $5, for a beer adds up quickly if you enjoy drinking. That said, Vietnam was still very affordable. In central Hanoi, hostel beds were around 5 to 7 USD per night. And nearly every bar or food spot offered beer for about 30,000 dong, around $1.20. And yes, I am the kind of traveler who uses beer prices to measure my budget. Enjoy. We also found polls that shed light on how common this dream is. In AX poll by Kontiki, a travel company, they asked, "Would you quit your job to travel the world if money wasn't an issue?" 58% said yes. 42% said no. That's a pretty even split. A lot of people crave the lifestyle, but nearly half still hesitate. Why? Uncertainty. Risk. Fear of falling behind. Google Trends shows us that every January, searches for quit job to travel spike. It's a post-holiday phenomenon, back to work blues, New Year resolutions, existential dread. But motivation fades fast, and only a small percentage of people actually make the jump. On Quora, people who've already taken the leap shared honest, sometimes raw experiences. One user shared, "Of course you can quit your job and go travel. When I say travel, I mean travel the world for 6 months. But this is not without any preparation. I used to work as a tour leader in South Asia and have seen so many young people traveling in their gap years. 1 year might be too much for a lot of people, because they might be homesick, so 6 months might be right amount of excitement. Talking about preparation, some might said you need to prepare a lot of money. I don't think so. In 2008 financial crisis there were many people traveling in Asia, because the cost of traveling in Asia for a month is cheaper than paying rent in London or other Western countries. You need to find good deals. There are around the world tickets for about $5,000. Stay in hostels and youth hostels, eat locally. Find working opportunities in between. I know a kid who works in Australian farms for 3 months, and the money is enough to pay for 6 months of traveling in Asia. One group even biked from Beijing to Paris in 18 months, and they only spend a few $1,000s. By the time they get to Europe, they were able to make some money back playing music on the street. The group is called Fuel Virus. You can Google them. If time goes back again, I will get a scuba dive master license, so I can work in different islands, and have the income to travel to non-island destinations. Life is like a book, those who never travels only read a page. I know it is scary out there, but if you want to go travel, start your research and preparation. Nothing is impossible. One former finance worker wrote, I left my high-paying job to backpack Southeast Asia. It was the best decision of my life, until the money ran out. I came home broke and more anxious than before. Another added, freedom is amazing, but without purpose, it gets dark fast. There were days where I just felt aimless, floating from place to place with no real direction. YouTube comments echoed similar thoughts. On a travel vlog titled Why I Quit My Job to Travel, one commenter wrote, everyone glamorizes this lifestyle. No one talks about the constant planning, budgeting, or missing family during the holidays. These aren't just cautionary tales. They're reminders that what looks like freedom can sometimes feel like isolation or chaos if you're not mentally and financially prepared. Pros versus cons breakdown. So let's break it down. Pros: immense personal growth. A chance to reset your life. New cultures, perspectives, and lifelong memories. Opportunities to freelance or build passion projects. Cons: financial instability. Lack of career progression or resume gaps. Difficulty maintaining relationships. Burnout from constant motion. Visa, insurance, and healthcare headaches. It's not a vacation. It's a different lifestyle, with its own highs and lows. Final verdict and call to action. So, should you quit your job to travel the world? Here's what the internet thinks. Yes, if you have a plan. Yes, if you've saved up and know what you're getting into. But no, it's not an escape from your problems. You'll find new ones, just in different places. You can grow in powerful ways, but don't expect it to be easy or glamorous all the time. Now it's your turn. Would you do it? Have you already? What held you back, or what made you take the leap? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear what you think. And if you like this deep dive into public opinion, hit subscribe. Because next week, we're exploring another internet verdict.